Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone here in the auditorium and online. It's a pleasure to welcome you today to the OECD for today's Ministerial Council Meeting side event on international cooperation for the second quantum revolution of the OECD Global Forum on Technology. My name is Sarah Wentorf-Smith. I have the pleasure of leading our division on AI and emerging digital technologies at the Directors for Science, Technology and Innovation. And I'm pleased to be your MC today for this event. Quantum technologies hold major promise across areas such as healthcare, energy, finance, and transportation. And at the same time, they raise important policy challenges related to digital security, privacy, interoperability, supply chains, skills, and national security. Today's discussion is about how we can build a shared international vision for these technologies, one that supports innovation and economic prosperity while remaining anchored in democratic values, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. We're delighted to convene this event with support from Finland, Korea, Japan, and the United Kingdom. And to open our discussion, I'm honored to welcome Mr. Matthias Cormann, Secretary General of the OECD, to deliver opening remarks.
Wow, a full room. Good afternoon, everyone. Dear Minister Puisto, dear Vice Minister Yem-Yung Hu, dear Baroness Lloyd, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends all, a very warm welcome to this side event on international cooperation for the second quantum revolution. Quantum technologies are no longer a future story. They are live and developing story right now. The decisions governments make in the next few years will determine whether the benefits are broadly shared and the risks are properly managed or not. The scale of investment tells you something. Private investment in quantum firms has risen from around $300 million US in 2014 to nearly $5 billion US in 2024. Quantum patent filings have increased sevenfold since 2005. 19 OECD countries and the European Union have adopted dedicated quantum strategies, and the technology is moving. Question is whether policy is keeping pace. Let me start with the risk that deserves more attention than it is getting. Adversaries are already harvesting data encrypted with today's technology, with the explicit intention of decrypting it once sufficiently powerful quantum computers become available. The so-called harvest now, decrypt later threat. Research suggests that up to 98 to 90% of healthcare records and 95 to 100% of government classified data encrypted under current standards could be vulnerable to retroactive decryption. This presents significant data protection and privacy risks. The data being stolen today may be readable within a decade, and that is not a hypothetical risk. Data harvesting is happening now, and quantum computing is advancing rapidly. This means that the transition to post-quantum cryptography is not a future task, it is an urgent present priority. Responding to this urgency will unlock extraordinary opportunities. Quantum technologies have already transformed medical imaging through magnetic resonance imaging and positron emission tomography scanners. And the next wave of breakthroughs, earlier disease diagnosis, new materials for stronger batteries and more efficient catalysts, better climate modeling, faster financial risk analysis, could all be genuinely transformative for our economies and our societies. But only if the foundational conditions are right. Broad deployment of post-quantum cryptography, strong ecosystems, secure supply chains, and internationally coordinated policy. On supply chains, our analysis points to a concerning picture. Working with the European Patent Office, we mapped the global quantum ecosystem in detail. The data shows that China sits at the heart of 124 of the 329 strategic dependencies in the quantum supply chain, a figure that has approximately tripled compared to the period just 4 years earlier. For some critical components, including the static converters that deliver the ultra-stable power quantum computers require, nearly 50 economies rely on a single strategic partner, and in almost 80% of those cases, that partner is China. This is not a criticism of China, it is a factual description of a shared global dependency. No country can address supply chain concentration in quantum technologies alone. It requires exactly the kind of coordinated international approach that we are here to advance here at the OECD. The OECD has identified 3 priorities for governments. First, strengthen quantum ecosystems and support the transition from research to commercialization. Our joint mapping with the European Patent Office and our quantum technologies policy primer gives governments a shared evidence base to assess national strengths, prioritize investment, build skills, and mobilize the necessary private capital. Second, secure the supply chains underpinning quantum technologies. Our ongoing work on mapping quantum supply chains will help governments identify dependencies early, manage risks, and build competitive and resilient supply chains collaboratively. Third, strengthen international dialogue and coordination through shared standards, common frameworks, and forums for governments, industry, and researchers to align their approaches. Today, we're taking a significant step on that third priority. We're launching the OECD recommendation on quantum technologies, the first intergovernmental standard for the responsible development and use of trusted quantum technologies. This recommendation gives policymakers a common reference point, helping to prevent regulatory fragmentation by establishing shared principles and policy guidance. It addresses a full range of risks. The cryptographic vulnerabilities are described, the surveillance and privacy implications of advanced quantum sensors, the dual use concerns that come with any powerful technology, and more. And it does so in a framework grounded in democratic values, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. It is a product of intensive multilateral work through our Global Forum on Technology, and it is an example of what the OECD does best, getting like-minded nations together to agree on the rules before the technology outpaces the government's ability to engage. The choices governments make in the next few years on quantum technologies will shape innovation, security, and strategic advantage for decades. The OECD recommendation gives you a foundation to make those choices wisely, coordinated rather than fragmented, together rather than on your own. Minister Puisto, I'm delighted that Finland, as this year's MCM chair, is co-hosting this event. Your country's leadership on technology policy sets an important example. I look forward to a rich discussion and look forward to the continuation of this side event.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. It is my pleasure to now invite Mr. Sakari Puisto, Minister for Economic Affairs of Finland, to share remarks from the perspective of the host of this year's MCM. Minister, you're welcome.
Thank you, and good day, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. Welcome all to this OECD side event on international cooperation for the second quantum revolution. We are honored to open this discussion on the role of the OECD Global Forum on Technology, GFTech, in quantum. GFTech offers something truly distinctive. It's not only a space for exchanging information, but a platform that provides political impetus, clear direction, and a set of common aims for international cooperation on emerging and transformative technologies. At a time when technological change is faster than ever, and the geopolitical situation is, let's say, highly dynamic, the importance of this forum is greater than ever. Quantum technologies illustrate this point particularly well. We are often told that we are on the verge of a second quantum revolution. So the first quantum revolution refers to the earlier days of quantum, the times of Schrödinger, Paul Dirac, Niels Bohr, and so on. And the second quantum revolution is when we take the actual quantum in control, driven by advances in quantum computing, sensing, and communications. These developments promise breakthroughs in areas ranging from healthcare and climate modeling to logistics, materials science, and secure communications. They hold the potential to boost productivity, enhance global competitiveness, lower energy consumption of artificial intelligence, and help us tackle some of the most pressing challenges of our time. At the same time, quantum technologies are inherently dual use. The same capabilities that can accelerate scientific discovery or protect sensitive data can also be applied in ways that threaten economic interests, national security, or fundamental values. Powerful quantum computing could undermine current cryptographic systems. Highly sensitive quantum sensors may have military or intelligence applications. This dual-use nature does not mean that progress should be slowed or feared or even cannot be slowed, but it does mean that progress must be guided. This is where international cooperation becomes essential. No country, however advanced, can develop, govern, and safeguard quantum technologies alone. Global research networks, cross-border supply chains, and shared standards are a necessity in this field. The question is not whether we cooperate, but how we do so in a way that is responsible, trustworthy, and aligned with our shared values. The OECD and GFTech in particular provide a unique environment for addressing this question. It brings together governments, academia, industry, and civil society in an early and structured dialogue before technologies become fully entrenched and policy choices harder to change. It helps translate technical complexity into policy-relevant insight and fosters convergence around principles that respect democratic values, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. As we deepen cooperation on quantum technologies, we must be clear-eyed about risks as well as opportunities. Technology leakage is a real concern. So is the protection of research integrity and research security in an open scientific environment. Openness has been and must remain a cornerstone of scientific progress. Yet, openness cannot mean naivety. It requires shared understanding of risks, appropriate safeguards, and proportionate measures that protect sensitive knowledge without stifling collaboration or innovation. In practical terms, this calls for closer alignment of policies related to research funding, international mobility, data governance, and export controls, as well as continuous dialogue between the scientific community and security authorities. It also calls for trust between partners, trust built on transparency, reciprocity, and respect for agreed rules. The OECD recommendation on quantum technologies, which will be presented today soon, is an important step in this direction. It offers a values-based framework that can help countries navigate these tensions in a coherent and coordinated way. For Finland, responsible technology development is not an abstract concept. As a small, open, and highly innovative economy, we depend on international cooperation, strong institutions, and rules-based international systems. We see quantum technologies as an area where cooperation can be a source of value mutual creation. Today's discussions come at a crucial moment. The strategic importance of quantum technologies is rising, investment is increasing, and policy choices made now will have long-lasting effects. I encourage all of you to use this event not only to share national perspectives, but to listen, to identify common ground, and to consider how GF Tech can continue to serve as a catalyst for coordinated action. Let us work together to ensure that the second quantum revolution advances economic prosperity, supports the public interests, and strengthens rather than undermines trust between nations. With clear direction, political commitment, and effective international cooperation, we can harness quantum technologies in a way that is innovative, secure, and aligned with the values we share. Thank you, and I look forward to the discussion very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I would like to note that the OECD Secretary General unfortunately has to leave us now due to other commitments. We thank him, of course, and Minister Puisto for their opening remarks and for aptly setting the scene for the rest of today's discussion. So thank you again. We'll now move on to our first panel, which will focus on strategic visions for international cooperation on quantum technologies. This panel will invite speakers to share the guiding visions behind their countries and organizations' approaches to developing and deploying quantum technologies, with a focus on where international cooperation and alignment can help advance shared public interest goals. And I'm very pleased to now hand over to Ilona Lundström, Executive in Residence at Institute Q of Finland, who will moderate this high-level discussion. Ilona, welcome. Well, you sit over here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really happy to be here today and share the excitement on quantum technologies together with you, and especially with our high-level distinguished panelists. I'd love to welcome you all on stage already, and I will introduce you one by one when we are here. Please join me. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now plunging into strategic visions for international cooperation on quantum technologies, I have the privilege to share the scene with 5 very distinguished panelists, 4 in person and 1 online. And we start with Jem Young-Run, Vice Minister, Ministry of Science and ICT, Korea. Then we have Baroness Lloyd of EFRA, CBE, Parliamentary Undersecretary of State, Department for Science, Innovation, Technology, United Kingdom. Miriam Stillman, Partner, Tel Ventures, Israel, and Loïc Duflor, Head of Digital Economy Division at the Ministry of Economy, Finance, Industrial and Digital Sovereignty, France, and online, Oscar Diez, Deputy Head of Unit for Quantum Technologies and at European Commission. And we'll be happy to dive in to the world of quantum technologies through a couple of questions. First of all, we will be discussing or basically delivering you a sequence of statements on the vision. What is the overarching public interest objective guiding different countries or organizations' approach to quantum technologies? Then we will discuss in which areas is international collaboration most important and where might greater alignment be most valuable? And then if we have some time, then of course we will also give some guidance on policy development and where we need maybe some help or where the OECD can best support international dialogue and cooperation on quantum technologies. But now, dear friends, and Vice Minister Ryu, Korea has set out a quantum master plan for the next AI era, aiming to become a leading quantum chip manufacturing nation with very impressive goal of 2,000 quantum companies by 2035. How can quantum technology strengthen Korea and digital and industrial competitiveness, and what forms of international cooperation would be most useful to help turn the ambition into practical and trusted deployment?
All right, thank you.
It's
on? Okay.
Yes, it is on.
Hi, good morning, colleagues, distinguished guests. I'm Jem Young-Ryu, Vice Minister of Ministry of Science and ICT of the Republic of Korea. I'm very pleased to co-host this meaningful event together with Finland, the United Kingdom, and Japan as we look toward the future of international cooperation and the second quantum revolution. We now stand at the threshold of a second quantum revolution, one that goes far beyond scientific potential. It will bring tangible changes to human life, encompassing medicine, materials, finance, logistics, security, and defense. One of the defining features of this rapidly expanding quantum ecosystem is its strong interdependence. This is why early dialogue and a shared global understanding on responsible development are so vital. In this regard, on behalf of the Korean government, I sincerely welcome and congratulate the OECD Council's official adoption of the recommendation of the Council on Quantum Technologies. I would like to express, to take this opportunity, my deepest the gratitude to the hard work and dedication of the Digital Policy Committee and the Committee for Scientific and Technological Policy and Secretariat also, and numerous experts of the Global Forum on Technology and informal advisory group who have tirelessly held numerous the joint meetings and reached compromises to finalize this crucial recommendation. This is a milestone achievement marking the world's first comprehensive framework for the responsible, trustworthy development and the use of quantum technologies. Because the quantum ecosystem is highly interconnected and global, no single countries can develop or manage it alone. Recognizing this, Korea is proud to have actively contributed to this recommendation. Korea sees three key directions for international collaboration on quantum. First, we must advance in the industrial cooperation by combining our unique strengths. Quantum technology is no longer confined to laboratories. Fields like quantum computing, communication, and sensing are steadily moving into the market. For better performance, stability, and scalability, advanced manufacturing is indispensable. Korea has world-class semiconductor processing technology. By applying this to quantum device fabrication, we can contribute to the future global supply of quantum hardware. Leveraging these strengths, Korea plans to launch the Grand Challenge program to develop full-stack quantum computers with global partners, thereby enhancing the stability and resilience of the global supply chain. Second, quantum technology should be used to address shared global challenges. Quantum computing offers transformative solutions for disease treatment, materials research, energy optimization, and finance. To unlock this potential, the international community must identify shared priorities and expand joint R&D programs that combine the strengths of different countries. Third, we must build a foundation of trust and standardization for sustainable growth of the quantum industry. Since quantum technologies are evolving rapidly, setting standards for interoperability, performance verification, and safe use is vital. Korea will actively participate in global discussions on quantum metrics standards to enhance trust and practical use. Distinguished guests, the Korean government established the first national quantum strategy earlier this year. It has three pillars: secure the world's best quantum chip manufacturing capability, nurture 2,000 quantum utilizing companies, and then train 10,000 quantum experts by 2035. We plan to establish quantum clusters to support the quantum transition of regional industries, creating a virtuous cycle where quantum R&D leads to actual industrialization. To this is Korea's policy commitment to being an open, responsible partner in the global quantum landscape. Together, we can create better, best practices for quantum technology. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Vice Minister Ryu. And then we move to Baroness Lloyd. The UK has set out an ambition to be a leading quantum-enabled economy, recently announcing, once again, very impressive, an additional £2 billion in investment for quantum innovation. From your perspective, what should be the main public interest outcome guiding quantum policy? And where is international cooperation, including through the OECD Global Forum on Technology, making the biggest practical difference?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the OECD for convening this discussion on such an important emerging technology. Today matters because we are launching the OECD recommendation on quantum technologies, an important step in shaping how we support the responsible development and use of this technology globally. As other speakers have said, quantum technologies have the potential to transform economies and societies, from healthcare and climate modeling to communications and national security. But with that opportunity comes uncertainty. So from the UK's perspective, the key question is not whether we govern this technology, but when and how we do so. Our starting point is simple. Getting governance right early will unlock the full benefits of quantum technologies while helping to manage the risks and build public trust from the outset. We have learned from earlier waves of technological change that waiting until systems mature can make it much harder to shape outcomes in the public interest. With quantum, we have the window now to embed responsible approaches as the technology develops. In that context, the recommendation we are launching today is a crucial step. It sets out clear, practical principles for how governments, industry, and researchers can support the responsible development and use of trusted quantum technologies, and provides a shared framework to guide national approaches and international cooperation. From the UK's perspective, this also matters from a human rights standpoint. Quantum technologies would engage core rights, including privacy, freedom of expression, and equality, particularly as they shape secure communications, data protection, and access. We must ensure these technologies develop in ways that strengthen rather than undermine democratic governance and public trust. No country can realize the full promise of quantum technologies alone. The field is inherently international across research, supply chains, and talent. Without coordination, there's a real risk of fragmentation, with different standards and approaches emerging across countries, including in how we protect rights and manage risks. In contrast, a shared framework helps provide clarity for industry, supports collaboration, and builds the trust needed for these technologies to scale. In the UK, that principle is reflected in how we are supporting the quantum sector domestically. And this is where international cooperation is already making a practical difference. Through the OECD Global Forum on Technology, we've brought together governments, industry, and experts to build a shared understanding of opportunities and risks, and to develop the foundations for coordinated approaches. And that work has fed directly into the recommendation we're launching today, demonstrating how early multi-stakeholder cooperation can shape global norms before the technology is fully mature. In the UK, that principle is reflected in how we're supporting the quantum sector domestically. We are integrating responsible innovation into our funding system, making it a core consideration in research and development from the outset. We're also seeing strong leadership from industry, with the UK's quantum community developing and publishing its own responsible innovation principles. Alongside this, we're backing the sector with significant long-term investment, including up to £2 billion for quantum technologies and £1 billion commitment to procure quantum computers in the early 2030s. This reflects our belief that supporting innovation and managing risk must go hand in hand. But domestic action alone is not enough. That's why we're building partnerships with international counterparts to develop shared expertise, strengthen supply chains, and support a secure and trusted global ecosystem. We're doing this through bilateral cooperation with a range of partners and through multilateral engagement in forums such as the OECD, the G7, and NATO. In this context, the OECD has an important role to play. As a trusted multi-stakeholder forum rooted in evidence and expertise, it provides a unique space to bring countries together to shape a shared approach. The recommendation today is a clear example of that. This also matters beyond OECD membership. A coherent, internationally recognized approach can help avoid fragmentation, provide clarity for industry, and support wider uptake of responsible practices. Ultimately, the opportunity ahead is significant. Quantum technologies could reshape industries and deliver substantial economic and societal benefits. But realizing this potential will depend on the choices we make now. So the UK's approach is clear. Support innovation, embed responsibility from the outset, and work with partners to shape a global framework that is open, secure, and trusted. If we get that balance right, we can ensure quantum technologies deliver on their promise for our economies, our societies, and for the public good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Baroness. Then we move on to Mrs. Stillman, Miriam. As a venture investor and quantum ecosystem builder, you bring a private sector perspective to this discussion. What is, in your opinion, needed to turn quantum research into scalable companies and real-world applications, and where can international cooperation help bridge science, investment, and market adoption?
Thank you, Ilona. So for us investors, the question about what's next after investing in a quantum company in research, what is going to make it a global successful company? And as investors, we view quantum computing as the holy grail, a generational shift, something that can create outsized returns to investors, but also create a quantum divide between investors, economies, and societies. We're very well aware of that. Together with this amazing opportunity, there's also an immense risk. The risk is asymmetrical. Most of these companies will absolutely fail, but some of them will create outsized returns. The risk for us investors is the demand by these companies for constant injection of capital that initially is feasible with investors, private equity, venture capital, but as time goes by, it requires fundamental change in the way these companies get the capital. As an investor, I also participated in Israel's National Quantum Committee on the second quantum program. And when we viewed the results, they were staggering because with a really small governmental investment, 14th in size in the world of 360 million, Israeli startups raised last year $500 million, which is second only to the US. So these results were staggering and very surprising, I must say. But as a venture capitalist, I did not think that this is the time to celebrate because now these companies are forwarding and reaching the quantum valley of death. They will need capital for the next few years, sometimes many years. And capital is not enough. They need the demand side, which is currently not existent. And they need international collaboration. As Baroness Lloyd said, these companies cannot be local by nature. There will be no one winner. It's multidisciplinary and requires collaboration, cross sectors, cross nations. And I believe that the OECD can be this kind of organization that both builds the demand side from organizations like hospitals, biotech companies, financial institutions that depend on their existence on quantum computing, and also become the international business orchestrator, bringing together investors, technology, demand side, and policy. I believe that bilateral agreements and multinational agreements are very important. It's a very important tool. But sometimes the pace of technology outpaces these agreements, and creating an international collaboration on the business side is critical, and this is where I see the OECD playing a very significant and trusted role. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam, very much. We move on to Mr. Duflo. France has updated its national quantum strategy, announcing once again an additional €1 billion investment through France 2030 to build a sovereign universal quantum computer. How can France and its partners reconcile the need for strategic autonomy with the value of international collaboration?
Good afternoon, everyone, Minister, Vice Minister, Baroness, distinguished guest. I'm really happy to be here, and I'll be addressing in French. So make sure to take the headsets if you don't speak French. Donc, vous l'avez très justement dit, donc le président de la République avait annoncé en 2021 un plan d'investissement en France d'1 milliard d'euros dans les technologies quantiques pour 5 ans et a annoncé très récemment, il y a une dizaine de jours, une poursuite de cette stratégie avec 1 milliard d'euros d'argent public en plus dans le cadre de ce plan d'investissement en France 2030 d'au total 54 milliards d'euros pour l'ensemble des technologies critiques. Et ce milliard d'investissements dans le quantique se cumule avec des investissements du ministère de la Défense et des investissements des acteurs privés pour un total attendu de 3 milliards d'euros. C'est donc un investissement significatif. Nous avons d'ores et déjà une cinquantaine de startups en France qui travaillent sur l'ensemble des éléments du quantique, à la fois sur bien sûr le matériel, mais aussi sur les cas d'usage, j'y reviendrai, c'est important, sur les algorithmes et sur la cryptographie post-quantique. Comme vous l'avez dit, évidemment, l'investissement est également clé pour ces entreprises du quantique. Nos 5 startups du calcul quantique, par exemple, ont levé jusqu'ici, pendant tout ce plan, environ 700 millions d'euros, ce qui fait de la France l'un des premiers écosystèmes quantiques, sinon le premier au niveau européen. On est évidemment très fiers de cela, mais également on est très fiers de l'investissement des grands groupes dans ces technologies, par exemple avec Air Liquide sur la cryogénie ou Orano sur des entrants critiques du quantique. J'ai dit que j'insistais sur les use cases. C'est vraiment un point important de cette stratégie nationale, puisque évidemment, tous ces développements quantiques n'ont d'intérêt que s'ils servent l'ensemble des entreprises au niveau mondial sur des use cases pour accélérer des calculs qui étaient déjà réalisés auparavant avec des algorithmes plus classiques ou justement pour résoudre des problèmes qui étaient insolubles jusqu'ici. Alors pour en venir au sujet de coopération, le président de la République a insisté lors de son intervention il y a quelques jours sur le caractère souverain des technologies quantiques et en particulier évidemment du calcul quantique et des potentielles applications duales et du caractère disruptif économique de ces technologies, comme ça a été souligné par ailleurs par les autres intervenants. La maîtrise de la souveraineté n'est cependant pas un enfermement en soi. Les partenariats, pourvu qu'ils soient réciproques, équilibrés, jouent un rôle clé dans la recherche comme dans le développement économique. Et bien entendu, ces partenariats ne doivent pas limiter la souveraineté européenne, française, ou limiter notre maîtrise des technologies. Et c'est évidemment un point sur lequel nous sommes particulièrement attentifs. Alors la France coopère bien entendu très étroitement avec les partenaires européens, avec bien entendu au travers de Horizon Europe pour tout ce qui concerne la recherche et le développement, et puis avec EuroHPC, la co-entreprise notamment pour l'acquisition de machines quantiques. Et nous attendons évidemment énormément du futur Quantum Act que va présenter prochainement la Commission européenne, mais j'imagine que M. Diez nous en dira quelques mots juste après. Au-delà de l'Europe, nous avons également travaillé et signé avec un certain nombre de pays des feuilles de route communes, bilatérales et des partenariats internationaux, comme avec la Corée, par exemple, et également très récemment avec le Canada. Ce sont des partenariats qui nous permettent de renforcer la coopération en matière de recherche et évidemment de travailler sur les aspects industriels à des coopérations au bénéfice de l'ensemble des écosystèmes. Voilà ce que j'avais à vous présenter. Je remercie évidemment l'OCDE pour son invitation, pour ce forum et puis pour ces travaux qui seront présentés, je crois, juste après.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Floot. And then we go to our online statement that comes from Mr. Diaz. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you. This is like the Eurovision Song Contest at this point. I'm enjoying this tremendously. I have a question for you. With the forthcoming EU Quantum Act and the Quantum Europe strategy, the European Commission aims to make Europe a global leader in quantum technologies by 2030. How can the EU help turn a strong research base and national initiatives into a more integrated quantum ecosystem while also working with international partners? How do you see it?
Yes, many thanks. And let me start by congratulating also the OECD work on quantum technologies and the recommendation that I think will be launched after this panel. The European Commission, as you say, has been starts from a strong position in quantum. So we have excellent scientists. We have also strong universities and research centers, and we have very talented people. We also have and I think it has been mentioned also, many quantum startups and companies. So Europe is not starting from zero, let's say. We have a very good base. But the next step is going to be harder. The next step is going to be the main challenge that we have now is how to scale up and convert this into commercialization. So we need to basically turn this good science that we have into real products and services and strong companies at European level. And also for this we need also more investment and better access to finance. I think also has been mentioned before. So research funding is important, but it's not enough. Companies also will need this funding, this growth. So this growth in funding, also finding, so having first customers, having testing facilities and access to market. This is something that we need to we need to do at European level and at national level. So we need to connect the whole ecosystem better. That means researchers, startups, large companies. That is also very important. We have very large companies also in Europe that could be first users also of these technologies. Investors also, public authorities, and especially final users. Okay, so we need to all they need to work closely together. And also, we don't need to forget, has been mentioned also before, that this is a dual use technology. So we need to be stronger from the supply chain point of view, and also to have more industrial capacity in Europe. So what do we want to do at European level is basically to build this strong European quantum ecosystem, and it means that we need to have excellence in science. We need also to be strong in industry, and we need to be open to trusted partners, and at the same time resilient in key technologies. So for that, as you have mentioned, we have last year we launched the Quantum Europe strategy that gives us a common direction together with the member states and the European Commission, and it helped to bring together some EU actions also with national actions. So this is part of what we are doing. I think has also been mentioned now with moving all the activities to the Euro-specific JU. So the idea here is to work better together and improve coordination. And also has been mentioned that we are currently working on the Quantum Act, on the future Quantum Act, that should also help Europe to move from many separate initiatives into a more coordinated European framework. So in simple terms, and I cannot go too much into detail, the three, let's say, directions that we are following now, or that we are focusing on the Quantum Act is first the Quantum Europe research and development and innovation. So basically, we need to continue keep strong in research, in talent and skills. The second one, that is one of the most important one, that it will be what we call quantum made in Europe. So basically, that means support the industrialization, the scale up of these technologies, the investment, and also the uptake of these technologies by the market. And third, that is basically the safe and secure Quantum Europe, that is basically strengthen the secure supply chains, protect the key technologies that we have, and also support the trusted deployment of these technologies. So these three directions are useful because quantum is not only a research issue, it's also an industrial, security and competitiveness issue. So what we are already doing, I think we have also some things have been mentioned. So we are working on concrete tools. So for example, we are doing the integration of quantum computers that we have launched and we have deployed a link to the European supercomputers. We have secure quantum communication infrastructure as part of the EUQCI. We have launched recently the pilot lines in order to create the quantum chips and the testing facilities, and also we will continue with the skills and the support of skills and training, and at the same time work on standardization and certification of these technologies. So these tools are important. They will help us move from research to deployment, and they will help companies to test, to improve, and to use the quantum technologies. So they are also we are looking to help for these tools to help to create the future markets for quantum technologies in Europe. And this is has been mentioned, but this is where international also cooperation it matters. So it's quantum. I think quantum is a global field, so not country or region can do everything alone. So we need international cooperation. We have been doing international cooperation since a long time, and the EU is working with many partners, including most of the OECD countries, for example, Canada, United Kingdom, Japan, South Korea. We are in discussions now with other countries, and we have also cooperation also with other close partners. So normally these partnerships, we call it digital partnerships. They are important because they serve many challenges with these countries. So mainly on research, but also on skills, standardizations, benchmarking, and supply chains, and also in some cases trusted deployment. But cooperation, I think, as has been mentioned by my colleague from France, also must be based on trust. So it should be based on shared values, reciprocity, and clear rules. So Europe wants to stay open, but openness must go together with resilience. And we need to protect sensitive knowledge at the same time, key technologies, intellectual property, and critical supply chains. So we believe that international cooperation should focus on practical areas like, for example, standardization, certification, interoperability, benchmarking also, testing facilities, everything that is related to skills and the creation of talent, and also especially on trusted supply chains, and some examples, for example, will be in quantum safe cybersecurity. So these are areas where countries can work together in order to get benefits for all. And this is where also we believe that the OECD can play an important role. So it can bring countries together. It can also help to create a common language on quantum technologies for all these countries, and it could help also to compare policies and data, and it can help also to avoid fragmentation. So this is very useful in a fast moving field like quantum. So just to conclude, I would like to mention that Europe, as I said before, has a strong science and strong talent, but our next challenge will be to scale up this into an industrial ecosystem, and it means that we will need to have more industrial capacity, more investment, stronger supply chains, and especially more real users. So we need to connect the research industry, infrastructure, and also the national initiatives together. And this is, we want to work also with trusted international partners, and OECD can help to make this this cooperation more practical, more responsible, and especially more effective. With this, thank you, many thanks.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Diaz. And like in all excellent panels, we are running out of time. By this visionary and highly relevant statement that we just heard, I try to sum it up to maybe a couple of sentences. And I think the first takeaway is that we need the policy development early. And the central policy question is how we shape quantum technology development responsibly, competitively, and collectively. And to reach the vision, we need to collaborate in different things, but what were mentioned and are highly relevant indeed from the point of view that quantum is inherently international. Talent, research, supply chains, and standards are globally distributed and need to be shared as well. We need collaboration, cooperation in talent and mobility, standards and interoperability to create resilient supply chains. And of course, we need for that investment, both in startup and scale-ups and in the infrastructure to make the quantum technologies and their adoption open, secure, and trusted. And with this, I thank you very much, distinguished panelists. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Ilona, for also this excellent and succinct summary of what was a very rich discussion indeed. I also wish to thank all our distinguished speakers for setting out such compelling strategic visions. And so this first conversation, maybe to really summarize it very, very shortly, has underlined really why the unique capabilities of quantum technologies and the expected consequences for our economies and societies requires to go beyond national approaches alone. There's a need for a shared international vision. And it's therefore fitting that we now turn to a very important milestone in the OECD's work in this area. It's been already mentioned with great anticipation, mentioned the launch of the OECD recommendation on quantum technologies, a timely legal instrument, which I'm proud for my team to also have facilitated. And to present the recommendation, I'm delighted to invite Jerry Sheehan. He's the director at our Directorate for Science, Technology, and Innovation. Welcome, Jerry. The floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon, and dear Vice Minister, dear Baroness, others, friends and colleagues. I am really delighted to have this opportunity to be with you here today. As part of this event, which we will and are launching our new recommendation on quantum technologies from the OECD. I think given all that you heard before, I don't really even need to say that quantum technologies are advancing rapidly, and they are really poised to change our economies and our societies in many, many ways that are still hard to anticipate. And governments do face a shared challenge now about how we can leverage these technologies to best support innovation, economic prosperity, while at the same time ensuring that they're developed and used in ways that respect and reflect our shared values. So I'm going to tell you about the recommendation, but of course I have to give you a little bit of prelude as well, and just give you a little bit of framing to remind you that when we speak about quantum technologies in this second generation, right, of quantum technologies, we're talking about technologies for sensing or gathering information, for computing, processing that information, and communicating or transmitting that information. Quantum technologies can do all of this based on quantum effects, which reflect the very unique characteristics of particles at very, very small scale. When we talk about phrases like superposition and entanglement, that allow us to collect and process information in fundamentally new and different ways than we use with classical computing, which means there are new kinds of applications that cannot be done well or at all with our current generation of computing, and this opens up many, many opportunities for us. I'll remind you as well that the recommendation I'll discuss with you today is not our first step into quantum technologies here at the OECD. Over the last year and a half, since predating last year's International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, we've been looking and exploring this technology for its implications, and over the course of last year, published 4 different reports related to this technology, starting with a primer. It says, what are quantum technologies and what do they mean for policymakers? A second report that looked at national strategies around quantum science and technology. What are countries doing to advance in these fields? A third was a mapping that we undertook with the European Patent Office that looked at the various players in the quantum ecosystem, companies, large and small, research institutions, universities, governments, the financiers, and others as well, who are creating these new technologies and bringing them closer to market. And then finally, we introduced a report that looked at how we build business readiness for quantum computing. How do we promote its adoption and uptake across our economies and our societies? All of this, of course, reflects the fact that looking across countries, there are a growing number that have been paying more attention to quantum technologies and developing national quantum strategies to help guide their work in these areas. Starting with the UK back in 2014 and followed by a number of other countries, we now have 25 that we have seen that have formally introduced dedicated strategies, and that includes 19 OECD members. These strategies typically align long-term investments with quantum technologies of the kinds that I demonstrated, and feature prominently the role of issues around international collaboration, the need for standard setting. They also reflect, in many cases, the dual-use nature of quantum technologies and the critical importance, as you heard from our panelists already, that quantum technologies will play in improving the competitiveness globally and internationally of our economies and our countries. As you have also heard in the remarks already, national strategies themselves are not enough. No country quite has the capabilities to advance on all the scientific and technical challenges and operational challenges that quantum brings with it. We need to tap into a shared and collective sense of the expertise. We may need shared access to technology and infrastructure, as well as there are opportunities for more coordinated research and development efforts. And many of the challenges that you've heard about already today related to quantum technologies also don't stop at national borders. So whether it's the concerns about digital security, whether it's about supply chain resilience, again, we need to have governments working together to invest in ways that help secure leadership and guard against some issues around strategic surprise within these technologies. We know then as well that international cooperation is needed to balance openness against security, enable responsible scientific progress while managing the risks. And that's what we've aimed in the ambition that we have related to the quantum recommendation that we'll share with you today. Just to note, and I think has been referenced, this has been a collective effort. We have many members of the Secretariat from the OECD here who have moved this work ahead, supporting, if you will, the committees, the Digital Policy Committee, the Committee for Scientific and Technological Policy, the policymakers who have worked very closely through our Global Forum on Technology with experts from the research communities and business and the public sector, as well as with civil society groups to understand the opportunities and challenges. And it's by that kind of multi-stakeholder engagement for which we're very appreciative and thankful that we've been able to bring to you the OECD recommendation on quantum technologies. So let me tell you what you've been hearing about all morning, about a little bit more about this recommendation, which is the first intergovernmental standard that sets out shared principles and policy guidance for advancing the responsible development and use of quantum technologies. And it's organized in two major sections. First is a set of 4 values-based principles, and that's followed by a section that looks at 5 recommendations for translating these principles into policy action. And I'll take a few minutes just to walk you through these to give you a little bit of an insight into the recommendation itself. So these are the 4 principles. The first is to promote innovation in quantum ecosystems in ways that respect democratic values, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. So this means supporting research development of applications that provide more tangible benefits to humanity and can advance public interests. It also means that we need to take steps to prevent and mitigate the potential harms through appropriate risk management activities across the technology lifecycle. Number 2 is promoting secure technology access. This is 2-part. The first is aiming to expand the reach and the benefits of quantum technologies across economies and societies, avoiding creating and worsening gaps between and among countries where we can, but at the same time, ensuring that access to quantum capabilities remains consistent with the economic and national security considerations that you've heard raised already today. The third principle is about facilitating collaboration for innovation and economic prosperity to benefit societies. This covers cooperation among stakeholders. It includes scientific exchanges of views, more interdisciplinary science and science industry partnerships to help promote the advancement and development of this technology. But it also means developing common terminologies, benchmarks, and technical standards to help promote measurement of its progress, as well as international collaboration and interoperability among quantum systems. Fourth, and finally for the principles, is fostering accountability and trustworthiness. This calls for transparent, comprehensive, and accountable practices related to risk management. It means clear and reliable information for stakeholders on the capabilities, on the limitations, on the risks and development timelines related to quantum technologies. And it also emphasizes the importance of enabling stakeholders to participate in decision-making. This is a broad set of stakeholders that we need to engage. As I said, those 4 principles are supported by 5 areas of recommendation and policy guidance. And these apply to the adherence to the recommendation, but also I think have roles for all stakeholders to play and support. The first, and I think the recommendation itself is a good reflection of this, is about better anticipating the opportunities and the risks associated with quantum technologies. And this includes more forward-looking assessments, more measurable indicators and evidence-based benchmarks where feasible, and ensuring that these assessments inform governance strategies and policy development. Second recommendation is around creating and enabling the full ecosystem for quantum technologies. This means providing sustained, more transparent, and strategic support, not just for research, but for application development and to support the commercialization and deployment of these technologies. It also means maintaining awareness of national quantum ecosystems and encouraging multi-stakeholder cooperation on standards, on issues around agile regulation, on interoperability, as well as on issues of competition to ensure it's a fair and open marketplace. The third area is around cultivating a skilled, multidisciplinary quantum workforce that will have various backgrounds to bring to this work. This includes anticipating human capital needs. It means building the broad talent pipelines and facilitating both talent attraction, retention, recruiting. It's going to mean upskilling of the workforce over time, and even issues around international mobility of researchers to help bridge gaps in technology and knowledge. Fourth is around supporting competitive and resilient supply chains that can reinforce research and technology security. This is where we need to monitor vulnerabilities. We need to look at cross-country complementarities where we need to work together. How do we mitigate potential disruption risks? And how do we ensure more transparent implementation of measures that may affect international cooperation, such as export controls or other research security measures? And finally, we need to do this in a way that fosters international cooperation through more transparent, open, and values-aligned partnerships. We need more trusted and secured information exchange. Again, more on the area of collaborative research and coordinated initiatives to address global challenges, build capacity that can support public interests, economic growth, and security simultaneously. So I think together we see these recommendations as providing an early roadmap for governments and other stakeholders to help advance in a more coordinated fashion to promote the benefits and be attendant to the risks and downsides and challenges presented by quantum technologies. While today is itself, there we go, a milestone and a great accomplishment of a lot of work over the last many, many months and more than a year, we recognize too that the recommendation itself is not an endpoint. It's really the starting point of the next phase in this process. The next steps for us include activities like this and others to better disseminate the recommendation so that governments and other stakeholders know of it and can start to use it in their policy development efforts. The recommendation itself also invites broader engagement. It invites non-OECD countries to join. It also encourages other actors and stakeholders to engage in supporting its implementation. That implementation, we will also aim to support through providing more practical guidance. So the Digital Policy Committee, in cooperation with the Committee for Science and Technological Policy, will serve as fora to exchange policies and experiences, and they'll continue to leverage the Global Forum on Technology. And note as well, we think we're out a little bit ahead of this technology as it's poised to move from the laboratory into the marketplace. And we'll already have in place an expectation of a review mechanism 5 years down the road, and at least every 10 years after that as the technological developments demand, to ensure that the recommendation is reviewed and is updated as necessary to remain current. So let me conclude there just to say for those who would like to learn more, the recommendation is available on the OECD website. There are also a few little folders, pamphlets like this that summarize the recommendation for you. You can see much more information on our dedicated quantum technology webpage and many, many more resources related to this and other important emerging technologies available through the OECD's Global Forum on Technology. So to conclude, I want to just say that I look forward to working with all of you and the other communities across the policy and stakeholder communities to better implement the recommendation and look forward to our continued engagement there. And with that, Sarah, I'm going to turn the floor back to you so we can move into our next panel. Thank you for your attention today, and thanks again to all of those who contributed to the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Jerry, for presenting the OECD recommendation on quantum technologies. As Jerry mentioned, this is available right outside the room. Don't leave now to get your copy, but as you leave, please do pick up one if you haven't already. We now turn from vision to delivery, and our second expert panel will now focus on policy actions needed to support the second quantum revolution. And I'm delighted to invite onto the stage Audrey Plunk, who is Deputy Director in the Directorate for Science, Technology and Innovation, along with her distinguished panelists. Please join Audrey on stage. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah. And hello, everyone. It's great to be here. We have the pleasure of an excellent panel with us this afternoon and one colleague joining us online. I'm going to do a round of brief introductions, and then we're going to dive right in to some of the more maybe nitty-gritty or practical next steps that we might expect coming out of this exciting recommendation. So first, I'm very pleased to be joined by Mr. Masahiro Horibe. He's the Deputy Director of the Global Research and Development Center for Business by Quantum AI Technology in Japan. Dr. Thierry Boutier, the co-founder of the International Council of Quantum Industry Associations. Dr. Myra Indrakova, the Vice Rector for Research at Riga Technical University in Latvia. And online, Mr. Yong Kong Choi, the Director of the Quantum Policy and Strategy Unit in Singapore. And so thank you all so much for being with us today. I'm going to first start by taking, we've been talking at a very high level, mostly since we started on sort of the objectives and the potential opportunities and risks of quantum. I want to drive down from the strategy, which you all now have before you as embodied in the recommendation, to how do we move toward actual development and implementation of quantum technologies. And so I have some specific questions for each of you, since you're in slightly different, obviously complementary domains. And I would like to start with you, Mr. Oribe, because Japan in particular has put a lot of emphasis on industrialization of quantum technologies. And I'm wondering where you think the best opportunity is to go to accelerate the move to delivering these technologies more in the marketplace. So please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I'm Masahiro Horibe, Deputy Director, GQuAT, and so now certainly contribute to Japanese national quantum strategies. And so our center, the GQuAT, is established 3 years ago. It's supporting to the industrialization of the quantum technologies. And so our center has 3 important functions. It's one of them is computing infrastructures, including GPU and quantum computers. And the second one is testbed for creating next generation quantum computers. And last one is a fabrication fab for the superconducting fabrication fab. And then so the all function is now already open for use. And then so the now is domestic users already use. And then so we now plan to provide that function to the international collaborators. And also we are setting up the international advisory board. It's we are now here to catch the international demand. And so not only for the scientific aspect, but also the international and the business aspect. And then so also the Terry is one of the members, advisory board members. It's now it's a very helpful to get the kind of trend in the European countries, and so that is just function. It's other importance is the talent development, and so that is a very tough work because each stakeholder in Japan, each university side, industry side, so both sides require the different type of talent. It's research side requires much more research talent. But the industrial side, it's they also require the research talent, but so they need more engineering side and then also the marketing side, and also our so our test bit open for use and for the not only researchers but also industrial stakeholders, and so we also create many collaboration in the international stakeholders. We already make some MOU or also the collaboration agreement with over 27 institutes and companies in the world, and then also the EU countries and the United States. Yeah, and so they are accelerating creating the market using the quantum, and then so we are now hearing many stakeholders' opinions, and so that we find out the problem, and then we try to solve it together with all stakeholders.
Thank you. You've evoked quite a few topics, which I'm sure we'll pick up on. I'm going to go to you, Ms. Indrakova, because you have a perspective from a smaller but very focused and resourced research perspective. And so I'm wondering how you see the environment of really taking quantum technologies, building critical mass for those technologies.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be here on this excellent panel. And as we heard today several times, no country alone can manage this whole quantum value chain. So what is the strategy for a small but highly specialized research institution? And here the answer is focus and excellence. And I would like to mention a few examples from Latvia. I'm very proud of Latvian scientists who managed to find their niches within the whole quantum value chain when it comes to quantum algorithms, sensing, or communication. And there's another advantage for small research systems. Once you are small, you're also very agile and well connected. And again, if I look to the Latvian quantum ecosystem, then people are well connected. And we have this ecosystem connecting leading universities, research institutes, industry, and policymakers. And that's very, very important. And then one thing is to connect nationally, another thing is to connect globally. And when it comes to global connections, for sure, it happens through international projects. And if I think about Riga Technical University, then last year we had the chance to sign a memorandum of understanding with Niels Bohr Institute in Denmark. And if I talk about Denmark, then Latvia and Denmark are the only Nordic Baltic countries currently working on a European quantum internet strategy. And there are many other examples that I won't elaborate today, but the whole idea is for critical mass to educate new people. And here we come into play as a university, that we actually have combined the forces with universities in Latvia to create 4 modules on quantum technologies. And in that case, we can build up the knowledge and have more and more people being able to talk and understand the quantum technologies.
Thank you. We're going to come back to skills in a minute. So you've laid that out also quite well. But I want to go to Mr. Yang Kong Choi online in Singapore. Sorry, it's a bit late for you, but I was hoping you could tell us a bit how could Singapore add the most value in the global quantum ecosystem, especially focusing on specialized capabilities and international partnerships, which we've already heard is quite central to a lot of the activity.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hope everybody can hear me in the auditorium.
Yes, we hear you great. Perfect.
Fantastic. You can actually see that it's bright outside. So I'm actually not in Singapore.
Not too late. Yeah. Okay, good.
Exactly. No, actually, I'm not in Singapore, but I'm
that's
actually
why.
in Switzerland, in Basel, in
Okay.
quantum Basel
But
as
it's
well.
definitely
so
not late in
close.
Switzerland. Okay.
Exactly. It's so close yet so far. But really, I think that exemplifies Singapore's approach, that we depend on international cooperation. And, I'm visiting our international partners in Switzerland as well. Earlier, a distinguished minister from Finland said that Finland is a small country. I think Maria also mentioned Latvia is a small country, but I think Singapore can claim the honor for being the smallest country, I guess, in the realm of quantum. But I would also add that, I think Maria mentioned small and nimble. But when you're small, you need to be small but specialized. I think that's really our focus, right? And if I trace the journey, quantum is not new for Singapore. We've invested in quantum for over 2 decades. We actually started with more upstream research. So we were the first ones to start a pure play research institute called the Center of Quantum Technologies, or CQT. But about 8 years ago, we realized that was sort of necessary but insufficient, right? That quantum is moving out of the lab and into industry, into the marketplace. What we know now is the second revolution, but I would argue that it's happened 5 to 8 years ago. So then we decided we needed national platforms to coordinate the research from various places, to enhance in translation, and to encourage and have mechanisms to do industry collaboration. So we have 5 of these national platforms, 1 in quantum computing, 2 in hardware, 1 in quantum sensing, and 1 in quantum communications. Maybe I just use the sort of our National Quantum Computing Hub, which is the national platform for quantum computing, as an example to illustrate what we mean by specialized. This National Quantum Computing Hub, actually, we're building full stack capabilities, right? From hardware, error correction, control electronics, compute, middleware, even algorithms and applications. But when I say full stack, it doesn't mean that we intend to build full stack capabilities all by ourselves. It's just impossible with the capital and the talent that we require. So our strategy is really building specific capabilities in each part of the stack that allows us to collaborate with other companies, with other countries. I think so far we have been quite successful in that approach. Of course, remains to be seen whether we can meaningfully contribute to really the deployment and the development of fault-tolerant quantum computers. But if I talk about bottom of the stack in the hardware, we have a partnership with Continuum, having an on-prem system in Singapore, with a collaboration with Pascal for error correction, with IQM for cryogenic components. In the middle of the stack, we know that hybrid compute, AI, quantum computing will be sort of the way forward. So we have a collaboration with NVIDIA to work on sort of AI, quantum, hybrid compute, middleware and algorithms. And of course, at the top, we know I think a lot has been said about demand, use cases, that's really important. So at the top of the stack, we have mechanisms to work with enterprise end users, such as financial institutions, biotechs. And this is not just about with companies, but also with countries as well. So with Finland, we have a collaboration with VTT, with France, with CNRS. And putting aside quantum computing, that's also in quantum comms. We have a collaboration, I think, with the UK colleagues for very specific, again, for space-based QKD mission. So very specific. And of course, we have EU colleagues are starting our conversations with Euro QCI. So really, that's the approach, to build national platforms. Yes, we try to cover each of the quantum domain and even full stack, but to pick very specific capabilities that allows us to collaborate with other companies and countries.
Thank you very much. That was, I think we see a strong theme here. So I'm going to turn to Dr. Bother, and who brings a perspective from the industry, which is unique and important for us. And so, I mean, I'd love to hear your general perspectives on how we're moving quantum technologies forward, but specifically what industry views an international collaboration environment, what you hope to get out of it.
Yeah. Thank you, not only for the question, but for the invitation today to the OECD. Really happy to be here. Just to set the context, I am the Executive Director of the European Quantum Industry Consortium. We're an industry trade association that covers the entire European geography, both from EU and non-EU countries. And together with our peers from Canada, the US, Japan, 3.5 years ago, we started the International Council of Quantum Industry Associations. It's a gathering of these industry trade organizations so that we could have a forum to discuss. And we're very pleased that just 2 weeks ago, we, for the first time, expanded our community, welcoming the UK Quantum and the Quantum Korea Industry Association to our community. Okay, having said that, what does industry look for? What do we together, when we discuss on our international forum, what do we hope to see from international collaboration? First, it's about raising the profile of quantum technologies. We are still today at an early stage of our sector, of our industry. Many young companies that have grown, several established ones that have explored or even developed some technologies, but still we're at an early stage. So raising the profile, raising the awareness is something very important. And an event like today helps to do that. It's not in isolation. There have been many similar undertakings. All of last year, for instance, was actually a celebration of quantum technologies, 100 years of discoveries, 100 years of research. And that helps to bring about the importance of what quantum will mean in the future as we keep developing. The second point, we heard it a lot in the first panel and as well in some of the introduction talks. Quantum still requires sort of an intake or buyer signals. Governments play a big role here, and ultimately there needs to be some private acquirers of quantum technologies.
In order to enable that, in order to enable more users to come forward, there needs to be some foundational elements, standardization being one of those. As standards become developed, it's a demonstration of a mature market. It's a certain degree of certainty by users that the technology they're buying today will have continuity into the future. New versions of it that will come up will have some characteristics that will be similar to what they've already adopted. All of these can only be done through international dialogue, through international collaboration. So this is something that industry values quite a bit. And a final remark I'll make is that it's important to keep in mind that quantum technologies is not a zero-sum game. There's a lot of science that still needs to be done. There's a lot of engineering that still needs tackling. And in order to address these and uncover these as a collective, as a societies, as quickly as possible, it requires the communication of knowledge, the communication of ideas, the exchange of capabilities, talents to be able to travel across borders. That's how we will address and tackle those obstacles as fast as we can.
Thank you. I want to turn a little bit more deeply on the skills and talent question, because I think when we look back at other technologies, for example, AI, we see quite a race to for a lot of people to pull on a small pool of expertise, and that creates challenges both in terms of adoption in companies and in firms and in government, but also in terms of international development and collaboration. So I have one question. I'm not that I'm going to ask you all to answer, and just keep you a little bit focused on the time, and ask you to keep it to about 2 to 3 minutes. And the movement of people across borders and the collaboration in education and skills is clearly important. We see it across digital technologies and all technology and science. But I'm wondering specifically in quantum, what you think we should be focused on. You have a policymaking audience in front of you, governments in front of you, experts in front of you. Where do you see we need to go? From your various perspectives on the skills training, education piece, as we think about operationalizing these technologies, moving them closer to market adoption. And maybe I'll go back and start with you, Mr. Oribe, and give you the floor. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that is a very big program in Japan, and so in the past, it's education responsibility of education is a university. That is concrete idea in Japan. So, but so the country, it's so business side requires many type of talent. It's I said before, it's not only researchers, engineers, market stakeholders, and also the policy makers, strategic makers, and analysts. And so there are also the lawyers. Because it's currently it's not only for the promotion side, but also the protection is also important. And so I'm now working in the research institute, but basically it's the promotion side. It's in the past we are now encouraging encouraging the just scientific education and then somewhat industrial engineering education. So, but this situation, we now start to collaborate internationally across the borders, and so we have to care. There's so many regulation and then there's export control or something, and so we don't have enough that type of human resources. And but we don't know is the exact person is which area working. And so first of all, we have to find out is who is working in which area, which locations, so not the first important point. And the second one is that the education required much resources, human resources. It's also the money, and then the environment. And then so one possibility that is our facility can be used for not only the research but also education. And then so for example, our quantum computer resources provide to the university as educations. And so we plan to establish that type of program collaboratives, the university, not only domestic, but also the international. And then so one a project is now considering now with Australian stakeholders. It's so we will start the internship program collaborative with Australians. And the Australians students visit our site and also learn about the quantum computers, quantum science, and so on. And also our site already staying the many industry stakeholders. It's a company. And then so we accelerate collaborate with the students and the companies, engineers, researchers. And then so that a student can get to so some kind of knowledgement and then the knowledgement for the industrialization of the quantum technologies. And then so that's one of function. So we need more function established. So that's my side. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure the lawyers in the room will be pleased and relieved to know that they have an important future in quantum technologies. Let me go to you, Dr. Bozer, because you are probably seeing this real time from the industry perspective. And so please tell us.
Yeah, so I can confirm that industry does have a need for talents and it's not going away. Lawyers also, very welcome. I think there's an important point here that you mentioned at the start. How do we make this not a zero-sum game? How do we make this not a race to the bottom? And here, I think that industry is quite clear. They want to be able to attract talent, draw in talent, not only locally where they're based, but internationally. That requires several things that are important from an OECD collaboration standpoint. It means being able to train people across the world, being able to recognize the trainings and also learn from each other. Every country, every region does it a little bit differently. There's opportunities there to learn what works best. How can we implement that? And then finally, from the opposite side, from the young graduates, the pupils even today, or the existing professionals that are thinking about their next career move, seeing a sector that is burgeoning, that is growing with demand signal coming from not just a country, a region, but really across the globe, sends a very powerful message of the opportunities there. And therefore it's self-fueling. It grows the opportunities, the potential of having new people, new experts, new knowledge coming to the sector. So there's ample room there for cooperation. It's quite needed. And certainly from industry, they are not looking within their current borders. They are very much thinking about the sector as a global one, and they want to be able to work with talent wherever they are.
Great. Dr. Andrikova, share with us your perspective, please.
So we heard industry needs talent, academia also needs talent, and I would like to look from a different perspective. So if we look at artificial intelligence experts, then there's a competition. And I would like to look at this not as competition, but as talent circulation. And what I mean with that is that if I look what happens within universities for PhD students or afterwards for the postdocs, then we circulate our talent. So when it comes to quantum technologies, it's very specific, and therefore it's extremely important to gain this international experience and go abroad. And we have several instruments how to achieve that. We have joint PhD programs, we have industrial PhDs. And here I would like to share my personal experience because I actually have industrial PhD. And I started studying physics in Latvia. Then I went through Erasmus to Sweden, and I fell in love in international environment. And that's how I ended up in Germany, where I spent more than a decade. And last year, after 12 years, I returned back to Latvia. And that's what I call talent circulation, because you give what you have, you learn the maximum, and then hopefully you come back and share it with your ecosystem.
I like it. Talent circulation. I think it's a very good way of capturing in 2 words an important objective. Let me go online to Mr. Choi, and then I'll prepare you for a last and closing lightning round, and then we will close out our panel. So, Mr. Choi, please.
Yeah, I think it's a known fact that quantum talent is a scarcity. And I think if all we do is both countries, industry, academia, if all we do is attract talent, I think it will be a zero-sum game. So I think I want to add to Mario's point that it's not just about attracting talent, but not just we have to circulate talent as well. And I'll add to that we have to grow the pipeline of talent, both locally, domestically, and internationally. And I think we all have a responsibility to do that, to make sure that the field can succeed. So maybe I can break it down to 2 talent archetypes, right? One is what I call quantum experts, and one is what I call quantum practitioners. So when it comes to quantum experts, and how I define it is these are the talents working in academia, research institutes, and in the R&D teams of industry. We have a scheme called the National Quantum Scholarship Scheme from the government, where we want to train 100 masters and 100 PhDs in quantum. But I think what is quite unique about the scheme is that it's open for international students to apply as well. So actually it's a global scheme. Of course, we encourage Singaporeans to do it, but we also feel the responsibility that we need to build and grow the pipeline of talent globally, right? So that's important. Another aspect I must say for quantum talent, and maybe the theory can back me up or not, is that I think we're increasingly hearing from industry, it is not just about the quantum scientists and PhDs. I think we're also looking at engineers, because quantum companies are looking to scale their quantum systems. And of course, there's still a lot of science and deep tech science and deep science to do, upstream science to do. But a lot of the challenges are also in the engineering in order to scale this hardware. So we're hearing the need for optics, optical engineers, mechanical engineers, electronic engineers. And these are not sort of quantum trained, to begin with, right? So I think we should also look at sort of how we train engineers and to see how we equip them with the skills to work in quantum companies. The other archetype, if I come to, is about quantum practitioners. And here again, like Mira, I'm borrowing a little bit from AI. In AI, we know it's not just having AI experts, but having experts from each of the domains in order to be bilingual to adopt AI, right? And I think we need to have the same perspective for quantum. We already know for quantum computing where are the key sectors of application in pharmaceuticals, chemicals, logistics, financial institutions. And I think we need to start looking at the experts in these sectors and thinking about how to make them quantum literate. Again, they don't have to do a quantum master's or quantum PhD, or at least I don't think so. But I think we need to, train them, work with enterprises in order to train them to be quantum literate, so that they can work with the quantum experts, with the quantum researchers and companies in order to bring the demand side, in order to bring the use cases to advance the field. So I think we all have a responsibility really to also grow the pipeline of talent globally.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to ask you each to close us out by giving me a perspective on, or giving us a perspective on where you think we'll be in 2030. That's not very long from now. I mean, in your space, maybe it's forever away, but and for most of us pedestrians, we 2030 is, it's not too far, but it's also not tomorrow. It's a couple years. So where will we be, either in the international collaboration space or from whatever perspective you want to offer your thoughts on that? And I'm going to sort of change up the order and ask Dr. Voder to go first. No pressure.
So as I look in my crystal ball, what does the future offer? Please don't take this as an investment recommendation. I think by 2030, we will be from a quantum perspective in a very different world. There will have been some very significant milestones achieved. I think here, for instance, of the first fault-tolerant quantum computers, so with error correction baked in. I think what we've seen in early deployments of QKD, quantum key distribution, will now be much more expanded. Companies that are today already thinking about their data security in an upcoming quantum era will have, in some cases, completed, in many cases at least initiated a migration to what's known as post-quantum cryptography, and possibly even considered an added layer of QKD on top. It will be a very different world. So what lies between today and that future is a lot more developments. A lot of the ingredients which we've talked about here today, I think, will be key to get to this point. And I certainly hope that by the time we get to 2030, that these new developments, which will pop up here and there, and you'll hear about it from different firms, different parts of the world, that there is a sense that a broad number of countries are benefiting from this, a broad number of societies want to use it, and a broad set of companies see their own future, their own perspectives being nourished, being fueled by the capabilities that quantum brings. So there's a lot that's going to happen between now and 2030.
That's exciting. So Dr. Indrakova, tell us, 2030, where are we?
So I won't look in a crystal ball, but I will make a wish list. And so it feels a little bit like Christmas. I would like to see technical progress along the whole quantum value chain. And I would like to see this progress for specific use cases that society really feels the impact and the life becomes better. And then I would also like to see more educated people in a way that we have built up the critical mass for quantum technologies, and people have awareness what are the risks and what are the chances that this breakthrough technology offers. And this is a task for universities to do their job well and educate people with critical thinking. And last but not least, I hope we will be in Europe connected and also globally. Thank you.
Well put. Mr. Choi, we're going to go to you online and then come back to Mr. Oribe.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think echoing the previous speakers, if I may, it's more of a wish list, I would say. Really, I think the first element is the trajectory of the technology development, right? I mean, industry, many company roadmaps point to 2030 or the early 30s for fault-tolerant quantum computers, and we hope that can come true. But I think for policymakers, and coming from Singapore's perspective, there is still a lot of uncertainty of the maturation of the technology, right? So for policymaker, that's a challenge, especially for a small country like us. With the uncertainty of the technology development, how do you plan for policies and strategies, right? Because if we invest too early, there is sort of obviously a disadvantage, and this is all taxpayers' money. But of course, if we invest too late in the technology, we would not be prepared for it. So I think managing the uncertainty of the trajectory is important, and I think international cooperation with other countries, with companies, would be quite key to provide that visibility across the globe about the trajectory of the technology development. So that's sort of the first wish list of a policymaker. The other is if 2030, the early 2030s comes along, especially for quantum computing, fault-tolerant quantum computers, we all know that technology is a tool. It's the application of it that makes it meaningful, right? It's the application which provides value. And here we talk about having quantum advantage, commercial advantage. But I think the need is to make sure that we have the use cases that can apply the technology and bring meaningful value to societies, to our citizens, to consumers. And I think on that point, there's also a need to, and probably I think this is where international organizations like OECD can really help, which is when the time for application comes along, there needs to be equitable benefit, I think, to countries across the world, not just for the developed countries who knows how to develop and deploy quantum, but also perhaps developing countries that would need probably some capacity building to apply the technology. So I think that would also be sort of on my wish list of what we can do globally. Thank you.
Thank you. And you have the last word, Mr. Horibe.
I'd like to summarize this talk in 20 seconds. Yeah, and so the next phase of the industrialization of the quantum technology just started this year, I feel. And so the next 5 years, very challenging period. And so the more international collaboration is very important to succeed. So the value chain and the quantum ecosystem. But apparently we have to think about balancing between the promotion and protection. And in the so trusted collaboration is the create successful for the quantum industry. That's my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, please join me in thanking our panelists for joining us today. And I will turn back to Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Audrey, for the excellent moderation. And also thank you to distinguished panelists for their thoughtful perspectives and projections, not the least. So across the two panels today, we've now moved from strategic visions to concrete practical approaches, and from the promise of quantum technologies to the international cooperation needed to realize this responsibly. And so to close today's event, I'm honored to now welcome Yasushi Masaki, OECD Deputy Secretary General. He will deliver closing remarks. You're welcome on the stage, Deputy Secretary General.
Dear Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking our speakers for a rich and engaging discussion this afternoon. I also like to thank the co-organizers of this event of the OECD Global Forum on Technology, Finland, Japan, Korea, and the United Kingdom for the initiative and ongoing support. Our session today has taken us from strategic vision to concrete action for international cooperation on quantum. In the first panel, we heard how countries are framing quantum technologies as drivers of economic prosperity, scientific development, and advancing the public interest. In the second panel, we turn to what it will take to deliver on this opportunity, from advancing research and innovation to building skills, infrastructure, and supply chain. The OECD recommendation on quantum technologies, which we are launching today, is a cornerstone of this effort. It provides governments and other quantum actors with a shared set of principles and policy guidance for the reasonable development and use of trusted quantum technologies. This helps anchor international cooperation, unlocking the benefits of these technologies while also managing emerging risks. The recommendation captures a shared vision for quantum technologies as a strategic policy opportunity, one that cuts across science, technology industry, and economic security. To move from these strategic ambitions to tangible outcomes, we need to advance from scientific backthoughts to commercialization. As we heard today, these advancements rely on two interrelated foundations: stronger, more resilient quantum ecosystems and international cooperation. More resilient quantum ecosystems are underpinned by stronger links between research and industry, robust quantum infrastructure skills and talent pipelines, and multi-stakeholders and multidisciplinary cooperation. At the same time, quantum innovation is inherently global. No country can succeed alone. Progress depends on shared research, cross-border movement of talent, access to infrastructure, and interconnected supply chains. Meanwhile, governments must navigate tensions between openness and security, given risks related to digital security, privacy, and national security, as well as the dual-use nature of these technologies. Looking ahead, our collective priority is clear. We need trusted frameworks and trusted fora for international cooperation on quantum technologies based on shared principles and policy approaches. The OECD plays a key role in supporting countries and stakeholders in advancing international cooperation. Through its multidisciplinary work across policy communities and through the multi-stakeholder approach of the Global Forum on Technology, the OECD provides a platform for three things. First, expert-based and policy-oriented dialogue to share evidence and experience. Second, analytical work to build a common understanding of gaps, challenges, and possible solutions. And third, coordinated approaches that are based on shared values from an early stage of technological development. I hope the new recommendations on quantum and today's discussion will serve as stepping stones toward trusted and concrete international cooperation on quantum technologies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary General. This brings our event to a close. And so on behalf of the OECD Global Forum on Technology, it's my pleasure to thank all of our speakers, our moderators, and participants here in the auditorium as well as online for joining today for this timely conversation about the international cooperation for the second quantum revolution. I also wish to express our gratitude for the support from Finland, Korea, Japan, and United Kingdom to make this event possible. And I want to advise you that later this year, the OECD Global Forum on Technology will also host a series of dialogues on emerging technologies, including on advanced materials, digital twins, gene editing, and advanced robotics. And so we invite you to follow us on LinkedIn to continue to take part in conversation on advanced technologies and the frontier of technological change, and to explore how these developments can change our societies and our economies. And I also do want to warmly invite you to another side event that we're hosting today at 3 p.m. It will be in conference room 10, and it is on advancing international cooperation on artificial intelligence, and there'll be coffee served from 2:30. So again, you're warmly welcome to join us there as well. Thank you again for your attention and for the engagement.